All right.
I did.
All right, the time is 3 o'clock. I'm calling to order the Board of Equalization. Please silence all cell phones. Today we have Commissioners Kelly, Burmeister, Warren, and Mixon, as well as our County Administrator Bonnie Moore, Kendra Kohler, our Operations Manager. We've see Denny Wilson, our County Engineer, and Dan Pittman, our County Assessor, are with us. Please silence cell phones and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, agenda item 4, public comments. Kendra, has anybody signed up for comments today? Thank you. Agenda item 5, the consent equalization agenda. These are items of usual business in our routine, which are expected to be adopted without dissent. Any comments from board members?
Well, I'd like to approve with the exception of moving 5.2 to the regular agenda.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Kelly, second from Commissioner Burmeister. Any questions or comments? Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carried.
All right, moving down to our regular agenda, I'll start with agenda item 5.2, which is tax correction 17509 through 17514. Dan Pittman, Assessor.
I'd like to make a motion that that be held over to a future meeting, let's say next week or 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
You can just table it indefinitely if you
All
want.
right, to be
put a
tabled
date on it.
indefinitely.
Okay, so I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Warren, second by Commissioner Kelly to table indefinitely. Any questions or comments from board members? Seeing none, please vote.
I haven't got a,
There it goes.
got it.
Do you have it yet, Jim?
Did you get a vote?
Who moved it?
Yeah, mine came up. So I
Did you
didn't
move,
take, now
Jim?
it took.
There you go, sorry. Ayes 5, nays none, motion carried.
Agenda item 6.1, tax corrections 17472 through 17473 and 17476, tabled from January 7th, 2025. Once again, Dan Pittman, County Assessor.
I make a motion to table this agenda item indefinitely.
Second.
We have a motion by Kelly, second by Warren to table indefinitely. Any further comments from commissioners? Seeing none, please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carried.
And lastly, 6.2, tax corrections 17477 through 17508 and 17515 through 17516. Dan Pittman, Assessor.
Motion to table indefinitely.
Second.
I have a motion to table indefinitely from Commissioner Kelly, second by Commissioner Warren. Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carried.
Agenda item 7, executive session. There's no need for executive session in the Board of Equalization. So agenda item 8, all agenda items have been addressed as published. The Board of Equalization is now adjourned. Now calling to order the Board of Commissions. The time is 3:04 p.m. We do have Commissioners Kelly, Burmeister, Warren, Mixon, and Klug, as well as our County Administrator Bonnie Moore, Operations Manager Kendra Kohler. I don't know if is Jeff Michaels in the audience? Yes, there he is. Sorry I missed you the first time. As well as Denny Wilson, our County Engineer. Item 3, public comments. Any comments from the public at this point? All right, up next, proclamations and presentations. 4.1 OPPD update, Michaela Valentin.
Good afternoon, Chairman Klug and Commissioners. I wanted to introduce a few folks that I brought with me today, and then you will receive a presentation by our Vice President, Tim McAravey. So I'd like you to meet or see again Director Spurgeon, and then followed by Director Corr. Please introduce yourself.
Mary Spurgeon. I am Director for Sub-District 3, which is basically Eastern Sarpy County, all that belongs within the county, within that portion. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good afternoon. I know we've all met before, but happy to be here formally as the District 4 Representative Director for OPPD. So I cover the rest of Sarpy County that Mary doesn't represent, and then the 6 counties to the south. So looking forward to working with you all and having these regular updates. And this presentation, I'll introduce Mr. Tim McAravey, who's the Vice President of Customer Service and Public Affairs. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There we go. Good afternoon, Chairman Klug and Commissioners. It's a pleasure to be with you today and meet you, some of you for the first time, some of you again, so it's good to see you. Administrator Moore, good to see you again as well. I'm pleased to be in front of you today to share an update on the things OPPD has going on to support growth in Sarpy County, and I anticipate sharing some good updated information with you. Certainly anticipate you'll have some questions, and I'll attempt to answer those. Any that I can't, I know Michaela will help me out. We'll capture those and get good answers back to you. We're going to talk about a few topics today. One is the generation journey we've been on, generation in the term of electrical generation. We're going to talk a little bit about the growth we've experienced, a bit about economic development, share a few insights and challenges that we're navigating, and then talk specifically about things that we have had and do have going on in Sarpy County. First, if you've talked to or heard from anyone around OPPD, a major theme we've been talking about is electrical growth. And I would note that several years ago, in that 2016, 2017, even 2018 timeframe, we were seeing very little to no load growth, so depicted by about 4 megawatts a year on average in that era. Coming out of the pandemic and with the influx of significant investment dollars into the community, the advancement of AI and machine learning, we've seen that change dramatically in the last few years. Now where we have actual growth and or requests up to and around 100, sometimes exceeding 100 megawatts a year for the next several years. And that is certainly driving our activity. I use the term megawatt, and even being a relative novice in longevity terms in the utility industry, I'm a little cautious of jargon. So we've got some graphics on there to indicate or give us an idea of what is a megawatt of energy. How does that translate in real terms? So you would see a big box retailer, think of the Menards locally. That's about a half a megawatt of load, just to give you a sense. A good size housing development, around 250 homes, equals about a megawatt of electrical demand. And a large manufacturer or distribution center is typically in that 5 megawatt range. And that's been borne out over years of experience. So I share that just for awareness. So the growth we've been experiencing, while admittedly data centers can get the headlines for their growth, and they are certainly large growth customers, has really been across all segments, and nothing that you haven't seen in Sarpy County. Small business growth, housing growth, all of those things have been we've been experiencing, and that's what we're navigating. On the right, you see the portfolio. That's really indicative of how our revenue sources will change. It's pretty evenly distributed today between commercial, industrial, and residential. Over the next 10 years or so, we see that significantly shifting toward the industrial class in terms of the revenue generated and the energy consumed. So to navigate that journey where we've been, if you've been with us or paying attention for a while, you would have recall the term Power with Purpose. That was an initiative we undertook back in 2019, and that was to start adding 600 megawatts of natural gas generation combined with 600 megawatts of solar generation. And we've been on that for a while. That is the initiative that has resulted in the 2 new gas stations that we are, matter of fact, as we speak, there's some testing probably going on at the Turtle Creek facility, but the Turtle Creek station at 168th and Fairview Road will have the ability to generate about 450 megawatts, and then the Standing Bear Lake station at 120th and Military will have the ability to generate up to about 150 megawatts. In that time, we've also added Platteview Solar out in Saunders County by UTAN, about an 81 megawatt solar facility, and that came online in May of last year. As the growth has continued, we've worked with the board, and they've approved an additional batch, if you will, of generating capacity to continue to fuel and energize the economy of Sarpy County and the greater region. So that is comprised of an expansion at Turtle Creek. So already we're anticipating an expansion there of 1 additional engine that would expand that by about 225 megawatts. We're planning 3 additional engines at our existing Cass County facility that would add about 675. We're still planning the transition of the North Omaha facility around the end of 2026. I'll point out that is, it's common that we would get a question that in a time of expansion, why would you be decommissioning any facility? And the reality is those units there are close to 75 years old and are due to be retired. So it'll be a retirement of 1 through 3 and a conversion of 4 and 5 to natural gas. And we continue, that resolution continued to pave the way for renewable generation, which we've been able to add over 1,300 megawatts of renewable generation, not necessarily all online, but contract that in the last year. Some of the things that we're navigating during that time to bring these things on, I'm proud of the fact that we've been able to overcome these so far, but not totally miss the impacts of them. One is the accreditation timeline for new resources. Those resources have to be accredited and formally approved to be interconnected to the grid. That includes Turtle Creek and Standing Bear. We've anticipated those accreditation timelines have tended to lag a bit, and yet we anticipate those to get final accreditation about middle of this year on those 2 facilities. Us and other utilities nationwide are navigating other challenges as well, such as long delays on critical components, typically big components, big transformers, et cetera. As the demand has grown, it's spread throughout the country, and those are industries that can't ramp up or build new facilities, manufacturing facilities quickly. Aside from that, we feel proud that as we talk to area utilities, that we've been ahead of the curve in recognizing and anticipating the growth and actually taking action. We're actually the envy of many utilities, peer utilities and those in the region, by the foresight our board has had and that the organization has had to bring on new generation. Now, turning to Sarpy County. We've previewed a couple of those, but there is a lot of activity in Sarpy County relative to electrical infrastructure. We talked a bit about Turtle Creek Station already. We also have substation expansions planned in the Gretna area and Turtle Creek and Bellevue substation expansions to handle and set the stage for additional load and maintaining reliability. We have the Sarpy Southwest Transmission Project that has been planned years ago and is now complete, and underway now is the Cass to Sarpy Transmission Project as well, another key element of moving energy around the grid and supporting growth, and more importantly, reliability. And lastly is a 180th Street Corridor Infrastructure Project that will begin as well. All things geared around maintaining reliability and affordability and the availability of energy, not just in Sarpy County, but in our entire footprint. I want to talk a little bit more specifically about things we have going on and planned in Sarpy. So 16 residential developments, 1,188 lots powered. Those are our count. That may vary from yours a little bit. That's as we keep track of lots that we've energized. 15 commercial developments and 472 acres powered there. additional apartments and housing, accounting for 320 units, and more of an internal metric, but we have electrical service designers that work with customers. That's a problem when you talk with your hands at times, that work with customers to redesign energy service. And we've done over 250 work orders through that group of people in the Sarpy area. Going forward, there's additional things planned. We have industrial projects powered like Rotella's and the Google expansion, and additional substation infrastructure on the east and west sides of Sarpy to support future growth. So I wanted to provide that recap, anticipate that you might have questions, but indicate what I hope you can take away from this is we have had and do have a lot of activity underway to support the growth of Sarpy County, both on the commercial and the residential side. So I stand ready for questions.
Yeah, I'll make, first of all, a comment and then a couple of questions. Thanks for the information.
You're welcome.
First, we got an email here, I don't know, a month ago, 2 months ago, about the dual fuel at the turbine. That's the first I'd ever seen that. Now, prior to that, I had seen what looked to be fuel storage units out beside the turbines, but was surprised. At what point in time did you determine to do a dual fuel, which is the LP plus the fuel oil?
Correct. Commissioner Warren, from the very first of our plan for Turtle Creek and the Standing Bear Lake, we've anticipated, and in fact, the new expansions at Turtle Creek and Cass, we've anticipated dual fuel capability. And understanding that might be a question, we always seek to communicate very clearly on things. We have had that information posted. I know Mr. Underwood shared that perhaps in front of this body, amongst a lot of other information, but we have been really clear from the beginning that has been our plan to maintain for two reasons. One is it provides the ultimate backup for reliability. If we do have issues with natural gas, we can still run those on fuel oil if needed to make sure that homes and businesses have power. And it's helpful in terms of the accreditation value we get from Southwest Power Pool.
Another question, early on, you had a little graphic, very interesting. Big box is a half a megawatt, 250 ohms, a megawatt, a manufacturing or distribution center, 5 megawatts. How much does a data center normally require?
They can vary, Commissioner Warren, and I would defer ultimately, as I know you know, we don't share customer-specific information, but I will say generally data centers can be in the hundreds of megawatts of demand or usage if they're powered to that level.
I've heard that it talked about here, although it's never been officially presented to us, that little 5 mile area north of Springfield is roughly the equivalent of the city of Lincoln, maybe a little bit higher. Is that an accurate?
In terms of current load, I wouldn't say it's quite that high, but that is significant. And as you know, your key data center customer, one of those is also expanding in Douglas County. And I'd say that campus, when you add that in the capability or in the ultimate trajectory that they seek to grow to, will be significant. There's no doubt about that.
So another question that pops in my head is I'm aware of Google, for one, that when they open data centers in other areas, they'll also have a small nuclear station that will provide the needed electricity. And I've been told that can't be done in this area. Is that a federal requirement? Is it a local requirement? Or why can't they pursue that type of fuel on their own?
So that's a complex answer or question that may get beyond my depth, but I would say that there is no prohibition against a data center customer seeking to work with us in terms of nuclear power or any others. In fact, the structure of that rate is that they are the off-takers of energy from renewable centers around the country. What has made headlines recently is large data center companies The hyperscalers is kind of the term that's used. Think of Amazon Web Service, Microsoft, et cetera. There have been announcements around partnerships that they've entered into with either utilities or directly with nuclear capability to explore that. Those are fairly recent developments in terms of announcements. Those are many year out sort of realities before they would happen. As far as nuclear itself, we are certainly interested in that technology again. And Mr. Underwood, who you've met, leads a team of people that looks at that and all other generation technologies to anticipate and plan for reliable, cost-effective fleet or portfolio generating services. We think it for this area, based on the cost structure that we see, we think it is many years out yet, but we're staying very close to the technology, and we're engaged with NPPD and the state in a nuclear study that's going on to gauge the feasibility as that technology matures again.
I don't want to dominate the questions.
I have just first of all, thanks Chairman Core coming and Vice Chairman Spurgeon. Appreciate that. Tim, you showed a picture of one of the turbines out there. There's two actually, right? Side by side at Turtle Creek.
There is.
So for the expansion to a third one, where will that go? East or west of the existing two?
I am not certain. I'll defer if Michaela knows, but we may have to get back to you with the specific location in the next to the facility or adjacent.
All right, thanks. It's just kind of a trivial question, but I'm kind of interested in it just because I'm trying to figure out how it fits onto your property out there.
All right, thank you.
And how many
Commissioner
more
Collins.
employees will that bring out to the site?
Also, an answer I'm unclear on. I'll get that information for you. It'll be, I wouldn't hesitate to guess. I'll get you the accurate information about what we project in terms of employment.
And then last question, full FOC on the Turtle Creek. When will that, or actually IOC or FOC? I don't know how you guys refer to it, but when it's online, it's accepted in the Southwest Power Pool and it's delivering energy to Sarpy County every day.
So we expect it to be operable. We're testing it now. We've been doing testing for a while. We're testing on both fuel capabilities. So we anticipate full operability in the second quarter. We believe it'll be a little bit after that, perhaps mid-year, before we get full accreditation from SPP. In the meantime, though, we do have interim accreditation from SPP to be able to run the units as needed. And the only difference there, as Brad could elaborate more on, is if things were to widely develop, that interim accreditation could be affected. But we think there's a pretty narrow window, and we look forward to full accreditation hopefully later this year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Follow up on Turtle Creek. When that's up and fully operating, how many hours or what percent of the day do you anticipate that operating?
Commissioner, I don't know that that we anticipate it to operate every day. We have modeled that unit or that facility to run 15 to 18% of the time, but that's in modeling. And while we think that's relatively accurate, its whole point for being there is to be able to generate when we and our businesses need electricity, which is what we'll do.
Well, one last point. When we met with Commissioner Burmeister and I, and Administrator Moore met with CEO Fernandez, I let him know at that time that we're on the precipice of potential rapid growth. I mean, a lot of it depends on the economic factors we don't control, but we now have a functioning sewer system that's going to open up initially, over 20,000 acres of land for development. So, and that should start occurring as soon as 2025 this year, and we're already seeing signs of it in residential areas. But I think the old analogy I use is, school districts, they grow by magnitude of order, and they have to provide the service. That's not, they can't show up and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, we can't take any more kids." No, we take the kids. So I just hope that that you guys are going to be able to provide the the power needs for the county, not only this year, but into the future, and I'm sure you will. But I think communication like this is key to making sure that you guys know our planning factors and we know your constraints so that we can work together and make sure that, there's no surprises when
Thank
it comes to necessary things like power production and/or providing the services you need to operate those production plants.
That's great. I agree, Commissioner Kelly.
I just have a few, I have really two things. And the first one is with the data centers. And this is all the stuff I've heard, so I'm going to let you set the record straight. So I've heard when the data centers come in, they're big proponents of renewable energy.
They are.
Okay. How much renewable energy are they using for their power plants? Because it seems like we've got all of what's there is probably not being generated by renewable energy. Is that correct? Okay. So, then I will shift to this, and this isn't really in your league, but I don't mean it in disrespectful. I mean, this is something where you have these big, huge buildings, and it would be nice to see on top of their big flat roofs the renewable energy, the solar, etc. Now, I know there's probably some constraints with what they're looking at, but as we go forward, it only makes sense to start combining and looking at that. And so that's just a comment. So I guess the part is they support renewable energy, but they depend on not renewable energy, okay?
Right.
And then I would like to see them participate more in that process with what they can do, really, and all the land that they end up absorbing to build their facilities and stuff, whether roofs, whether somehow they can be doing more with that. And then now I'll shift to Cass County. And I don't think I want to steal any of the thunder from the mayor of Louisville, but there's all kinds of land in Cass County, and now that we're doing the transmission lines, correct? Because the big deal is it costs money to transport power, to transmit it, correct? So it's easier to get it at the source. It's cheaper instead of running it down the line. And I've brought this up before. There is so much land on the south side of the river in Cass County. I don't know where you're going to expand in Cass County exactly. But with that, I mean, obviously you have the mines down there, the Ash Grove and all of the land, because they're one of the largest landholders down there. I believe they own land from Louisville to Cedar Creek. They've mined that over the years, and it would just be, to me, if you're going to do the renewable energy, instead of taking valuable land out of production, that would be a good source of looking at that. And and again, I know it's a cost to transmit it then,
Right.
But just sharing some ideas today.
I appreciate that, Commissioner. I think some of those ideas have been shared and popped up in our conversation, in our planning as well. And all I can say is things that are being explored and can't predict on how they might materialize, but they're very valid ideas. So thank you for sharing.
Okay, thank you.
Just a few comments from me. I had the opportunity a little while ago to tour Turtle Creek, and that was a pretty impressive operation. So I appreciate the opportunity, as well as, and to reflect some of the comments Commissioner Kelly mentioned. As we're growing so incredibly fast, we really appreciate that you guys and your board are looking over the horizon to see what our needs are. Good. And really appreciate you being here today to make sure that the dialogue stays open, and we're definitely working in lockstep to do the best thing for our community. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thanks for coming out. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
One more question, and I'm done.
Commissioner.
I get asked this all the time. What rate does a data center pay compared to what I pay in my home or my neighbors pay for electricity? And did they experience the same 10% increase this last period that I did or my neighbors did as homeowners?
Let me start with a definitive answer and then add a whole lot of nuance to it. So yes, they did experience that rate class experienced an increase. The rate structure that is available to others or has been available to others of that same is what's called a market rate. So it's impossible to pin down. I wouldn't share customer-specific information, but the rate they pay us is largely based on the demand they create and the costs associated with that demand, which is sizable. Where they call the way they pay for energy is at market rate. So what that does for most of us is in a highly volatile energy market, they bear that risk. We do not. So whatever we buy to serve their load is whatever cost we buy that is passed straight through to them. Excuse me. So that's a structure that is appealing to them. I won't, again, speak for data centers, but they understand the demands, at least as they've expressed it to us in our service territory. They understand the demands that they can place on a utility for the high demand, and they certainly want to bear their share of the costs in doing that. Also, by taking on that sort of a structure, it enables them to have be an off-taker on a lot of renewable sites that they are, which is how they profess and achieve some of their sustainability goals. To your point earlier, Commissioner, certainly they they consume the electrons that go to them, some of which may come from renewable sources and some that may not. But that's how they generally structure their business. Commissioner, that gets into a much longer conversation of the different sort of rates that we have and the differential of cost. I would leave you with the basics that each year as we do a rate review, we take an unusual step, I'm told by our CFO and our rates people, is annually we'll do a cost of service analysis. So the approach we take is cost causers or cost payers in our system. So we look, and that's why you see sometimes the differential of rate impact across different classes is because of how those costs are and we anticipate to fall based on investments.
So I think I followed the majority of that. It'd be interesting to know what those rates are, depending on various consumers. But OPPD used to be known as an operation that sold a lot to the outside vendors in electricity outside of its service area. Is that still does OPPD do that, or are they more of a consumer bringing electricity in now?
Commissioner, that's probably, to get you an accurate answer, that's probably something I would defer to one of my colleagues, and I can get you a response back on that to describe. We do participate in the market, right? We bid our units in and buy the energy back. So it's the extent to which we're a consumer or a giver, if you will, varies really on an hour-by-hour basis, but I can get you a better profile of that.
Thank you.
The only other comment I have, and as I was thinking about it, is just security, because times have changed and it used to be an unthinkable act that anybody, especially an American, would sabotage the utility system. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, that is changing, and and I'm not asking you to divulge information that you wouldn't want to, but I just think, I'll just make the comment, it's a real concern that we have all of our facilities very secure. And obviously you hear about the whole grid, the security of the grid. I've heard, whether it's true or not, how vulnerable the grid is nationwide. And so I guess I would that would be something maybe for another day or whatever that you guys, whatever you could share in public. But I think that's a strong concern that we need to be very much aware of. I'm sure you're already in that mode, but I think it's reassuring for the public to know that we're not building stuff and it's not being secured, because there could be a lot of damage. Obviously, storms create a lot of damage and a lot of unhappy customers when you can't get power back readily. And obviously, we don't want to get into the other situation where it's not an act of nature anymore. It's an act of terrorism, I guess, is the word I'll use. So
We agree with you, Commissioner, and Michaela and I can maybe take that back as an opportunity for a next check-in. Maybe we can put a little more emphasis on the security. Obviously we won't be specifics, as you alluded to, that we can share. I would leave you with, though, that we have an intense focus both on cybersecurity and physical security for exactly those reasons. We are plugged into local, state, and federal law enforcement and intelligence agencies to be aware of threats and risks. And we are highly regulated around security from a number of we have NERC regulations that apply to us, in particular around the bulk electric system. So think of transmission and generating assets, around spent fuel at Fort Calhoun. We have nuclear regulatory security requirements that we adhere to. So it is an industry that is very heavily focused on security, both physically of the assets, but also cybersecurity as well. So I appreciate that comment.
okay, thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Thank you again. Thank you for being
thank
here.
you.
Appreciate it. All right, moving on to agenda item 5, Commissioner and Administrator comments. Start with you, Commissioner Kelly.
I'm good.
None, thank you.
No more.
Enjoy the weather.
No comments, thank you.
Thanks. Just a very brief comment. I'm guessing several people in this room probably knew Walt Peffer. Obviously, he passed away recently. He was a wonderful man, a very knowledgeable and very generous with his time, and a great leader in our community. And it's unfortunate that he has passed. Our thoughts and prayers are certainly with his family at this time. All right, item 6, consent commissioners agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Kelly, second by Warren. Any comments? Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none. Motion carried.
Matt, you guys can bug out. You don't have to hang around for this. You don't have to watch the sausage being made if you don't want to. You're welcome to go, but we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, agenda item 7, planning and zoning agenda. These are public hearings. We'll go have the public hearing for both and then vote on each one individually. So 7.1 is a public hearing and resolution 2025-24, rezoning from ag to RE2 for subdivision to be known as Cornish Ridge, lots 1 through 8 and outlots A through G, Sarpy County, Nebraska. This property addressed 18606 Cornish Road and is generally located northeast of 192nd Street and Cornish Road. Applicant 18606 Cornish Road, LLC, Kelly Jeck, Planning Coordinator. And then 7.2 is a public hearing and resolution 2025-23, preliminary plat of subdivision to be known as Cornish Ridge, lots 1 through 8 and outlots A through G, being platting of the east 1/2, southwest 1/4, and east 1/2 of tax lot 2 in section 5, T12 north, R11 east, and 6th PM, Sarpy County, Nebraska. This property is addressed 18606 Cornish Road and is generally located northeast of 192nd Street in Cornish Road. Applicant 18606 Cornish Road, LLC. And Kelly Jeck, Planning Coordinator. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. For your consideration today are 2 applications. A rezoning from agricultural farming district to RE2 residential estates 2 district, and a preliminary plat for a residential subdivision that will be known as Cornish Ridge, consisting of 8 residential lots and 7 outlots on a portion of a 95-acre parcel located northeast of 192nd Street and Cornish Road. It is the southern 55 acres that is being platted with this application. The northern, approximately 40 acres of the parcel, will be deeded to an adjacent landowner for continued agricultural use. The future land use designation of the subject property is agriculture, and the proposed RE2 zoning is consistent with this future land use designation. The 8 residential lots are each over 3 acres in size and will be served by a community well for water, individual septic systems, electricity by OPPD, and propane gas. There is 1 single-family residence on the property, which will remain on proposed Lot 2. The development is within the conservation zone of the comprehensive plan, and which requires 40% of the total development be protected as an outlot. This subdivision is setting aside the required 20.06 acres for conservation in various outlots to meet this requirement. 4 of the outlots will be owned and maintained by adjacent property owners, and 3 outlots will remain owned and maintained by the developer. Access to the site is from Cornish Road. The internal roadway will be located on dedicated street right-of-way, 66 feet in width. The subdivision also provides for future street connection to developments to the north, east, and west. The internal road will be surfaced with gravel and will need to meet county specifications for this type of surface. As with all zoning application, notification letters were sent out to property owners within 300 feet, and the site was posted with a sign indicating a pending zoning action on it. Staff received 1 letter, which I provided to you now. Usually we put it in the packet. That was missed, so I provided it to you now. The Planning Commission considered these 2 applications at a public hearing held on December 17th, 2024. 1 nearby property owner spoke at the meeting. The Planning Commission voted to recommend approval to the County Board by a vote of 6-2. With that, the staff recommends approval of the rezoning from Ag to RE2 for the subdivision to be known, and the preliminary plat for a subdivision to be known as Cornish Ridge, lots 1 through 8, and outlots A through G, subject to the following conditions: coordination with the county on community water system, and addressing the comments provided in the staff report, and addressing any other comments, the comments in the staff report. With two notes: the zoning on the property will not change to RE2 until a final plat application is approved by this board in the future. And that final plat is filed at the Register of Deeds. And so that's a future application. This is just a rezoning, a preliminary plat. And then with the final plat, a subdivision agreement will be required with this subdivision, just like we do all the other subdivisions. The applicants are in the audience, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
This is a public hearing. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak to items 7.1 or 7.2? Seeing none, any questions or comments? We do have. Yes, come on up, please. And for the record, please state your name and address.
Mitch Scanlon with the applicant. Kelly did a pretty good job describing kind of the replat and the rezoning here, but I'm just here to answer any questions you guys may have or any audience members may have as well.
Thank you. Any questions?
So we're looking, yes, so we're looking at, the total was 95 acres, 40 acres being sold off, 55 being developed.
Correct.
Okay. One house that sat on all 95 acres,
Correct.
used for farming all of these years?
Correct.
Okay.
There is 12 to 15 acres that are trees and kind of creek area, but the other remaining of acres has been farmed for.
Okay. So the acres being sold off in 3 acres or more or less, 3.5 acre plots, okay? So people moving in, because we had one negative comment, they're just not happy about the development due to what they want to do with their land. They don't want to be interfered with either as well. Do you see any problems with this?
I don't believe we're going to bring very much traffic to this area with only having 8 lots in that 54 acres. And then I think one of their main concerns was the wells being close by. Our well driller and the people that drilled the wells has zero concern with us being in, affecting their well at all. We are going to have 2 wells close together that's going to produce enough water for all 8 of those lots. He's reviewed it and said we're far enough away that it shouldn't impact their well whatsoever. With us being, somewhat adjacent to their property, we're only probably going to bring anywhere from 15 to 20 cars within those 8 lots.
You said there's trees.
Correct.
Is that buffer between the other property?
To a degree, yes. They're almost, I believe, directly to the south, and those trees are on the southernmost portion of this lot, the southwest corner.
Okay. And the reason, and I understand their concerns because I've seen it happen before where it's an agricultural setting and some people move in and you get a little bit of development going, and all of a sudden the people that have moved in, all the smell from whether it's cattle or whatever, all of a sudden changes, and then the original person somewhat gets forced out. That's a concern here. I just, with the limited development you're doing, I'm just not seeing that this is going to be as big of a concern as they're looking at it. But so, okay, well, thank you. I appreciate the comments.
Any further questions or comments?
Yeah. Cornish is paved there, right?
It is not gravel.
That's a gravel road. So
Correct.
you're going to have a gravel road inside your subdivision?
Correct.
And initially just one, right?
All of those roads you saw on this map will be constructed once this development, if the
Like a
development is
traffic
passed.
circle in the middle there? It kind of looks like it, but it's just an intersection, right?
Correct.
So who's responsible for dust suppression and maintenance and upkeep of the roads?
It will be
inside the
on the homeowners association of those 8 lots.
sub? Even snow removal too?
Correct.
Okay. And then on the water, I assume your engineers already determined there's plenty of water for the subdivision?
Yes, we believe there's enough water to serve all 8 lots shown on this plat.
And then the last question, the north 40 acres, does that fall into the sewer agency's jurisdiction?
Yes, it's in the urban
And is that why
reserve
it's
zone.
not being developed?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any further questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Does anybody else from the public wish to speak to item 7.1 or 7.2? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and ask for a motion on agenda item 7.1.
Motion to approve 7.1.
Second.
Motion to approve by Warren, seconded by Burmeister.
Just one comment.
Yeah.
And just a request, what I'd like to see in the subdivision agreement, when we get to that, after the final plat, will there be a subdivision agreement? Yeah, I'd like to make sure that the concerns in this letter are addressed. Thanks.
Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carried.
And 7.2, do I have a motion for 7.2?
Motion to approve 7.2.
Second.
Motion by Warren, second by Burmeister. Please vote.
Commissioner Warren, are you? Ayes 5, nays none, motion carried.
All right, moving on, agenda item 8, item 8.1, resolution 2025-7, reduction of speed limit from 50 miles an hour to 25 miles an hour and placement of speed limit sign on Cape Hart Frontage Road and South 68th Avenue. This was tabled from January 14th, 2025. Zach, senior engineer.
Thank you. So good afternoon. Public Works is recommending a speed reduction on Cape Hart Frontage Road. This frontage road is a remnant from when we shifted Cape Hart Road to the south and paved it between 72nd Street and 60th Street. Right now, the road acts as an internal neighborhood road, so it should be posted accordingly. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So this doesn't make an abrupt from 50 to 25 miles an hour?
No, it doesn't.
So how does that change? Is there I'm not familiar with that area.
Yep, so 68th Ave comes off of Cape Hart and connects to Cape Hart Frontage Road. So you're making a turn there and it's a short distance. So there won't be an abrupt change from Cape Hart to that frontage road.
So I think the frontage road, Commissioner Warren, used to be Cape Hart Road.
Yeah.
And they just never removed the signs. That's what I think happened. So somebody finally complained, right? Is that how it brought to our
Essentially,
attention?
Yep,
Yeah.
there's actually no signs out there, but GIS for these
Oh, I
delivery
gotcha.
drivers are still showing 50 miles an hour.
Okay.
Even though it's such a small stretch that it'd be hard to get up to that speed, but they're still managing to get through there.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Kelly, second by Burmeister. Please vote.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here, Zach.
All right.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carried.
Agenda item 8.2, resolution 2025-21, task order with Federal Signal Corporation for the purchase and installation of 2 outdoor warning sirens and components in the amount of $84,698. Jesse Arrett, Emergency Management Director.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm seeking approval to replace 2 additional obsolete outdoor warning sirens as part of the ARPA-funded outdoor warning siren upgrade project that we've been working on the last couple of years. The first siren is located in Gretna, right in the downtown area, and you can see the map there on screen. Each of the sites, the new sirens will double the amount of coverage that is currently present there. Let me pull up the second. The second site is in Bellevue off of Cedar Island Road, just north of Cornhusker. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions you have.
Is there any chance we can move that Gretna siren to Commissioner Warren's yard? A couple blocks down the road there.
For a price, yes. We'd have to get OPPD involved to get the power to it, but it shouldn't be an issue.
They're sitting right here.
I think he still likes the hand crank.
I'd make a motion on 8.2 to approve and that they stay in that location.
I'll second it.
Motion by Warren, second by Burmeister. Any further questions or comments?
Well, that's the first you're approving something for Bellevue, too.
Please
He was
vote.
forced to. Ayes 5, nays none, motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, for the protection of the public interest, I move we go into executive session to discuss litigation.
Second.
Motion by Kelly, second by Mixon. Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carried.
It's now 3:54. We will go into executive session where our discussion will be restricted to litigation. Good.
Yep, great.
It is now 4:52. At 3:54, we went into executive session where our discussion was restricted to litigation. I need a motion for us to return to regular session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Burmeister, second by Kelly to return to regular session. Please vote.
Ayes 4, absent Mixon, motion carried.
All agenda items having been addressed as published, the Board of Commissioners is now adjourned.
All right.